Hey everyone, this is Dr. Moriarty, and in this video I'm going to go over how we write the princess quiz in our class. Now, it's called the princess quiz, but it doesn't actually have to be about Disney princesses. It could be, what Harry Potter house are you? Or what Star Wars character are you? Or what Marvel Universe villain are you? We've had all sorts of really awesome quizzes coming through. You guys have seen these a million times on your Facebook feed or on the internet. They're very popular. Some of them are not necessarily super accurate, but they're more about having fun than really being legit personality tests or anything like that. So let me really quick find out what Disney princess I am. If you haven't taken one of these recently, I would recommend that you find a quiz and take it and kind of like look at how logically you think the answer is getting calculated behind the scenes, because that's what we're going to code. So I like to curl up with books. I like owls. I like humor. I wear a lot of those fleece sweater vests. I like to sing in the classroom. So I guess that's kind of like doing chores, maybe. Hairstyle, I'm pretty practical. Someday I want to be a teacher. I guess writers, kind of close. Style is bohemian? Colorful? I don't know. I live in a cottage. I actually legit have a cup of tea usually, like when I get home from work. This is a hard one, blue. Hey, I'm Belle! I knew it. That totally fits me. Okay, so let's actually look at how this thing was coded. When you make this style quiz, the first thing you do is you actually need to figure out what are the possible outcomes. So you want to limit it to 4-ish for this project, probably. Don't go any less than that, because then it's kind of boring. And you can go more than that, but I wouldn't go more than 6, because then it starts to get really complicated and long. So I'm going to go ahead and say we've got int Belle. So I am both declaring and initializing these variables at the same time. I've got int Cinderella. I've got int Ariel. And then I've got my favorite Disney princess, Kylo Ren. There we go. Okay. So you set up, and these are going to basically be their scores, and each question that you answer is going to add or subtract, well, not subtract. They will add to this. You could subtract, but we're not going to get that complicated. They're going to add to these scores, and at the end, we'll figure out who has the highest score, and that is the princess that you are. Okay? So then you're going to ask a series of questions. Let's start with, what's your favorite color? Okay? And we're going to get some user response in that. Uh-oh. I have a red squiggle, and when I hover over the red squiggle, this is one of the cool things about Visual Studios, it actually tells you a bit about the error. It says, hey, this is undefined. Basically what it's saying is, like, you're trying to put something in a variable and you haven't set up space for it yet. So let's go ahead back up here and do that. Now, you could do Princess Quiz with ints, but I'm going to go ahead and use a char, because I think that's a little bit more similar to how it works online usually. Okay, you do not need to initialize it like we initialize these. You could just declare it. Okay. All right, and you know what? I should probably actually go back and give them some options. So I'll say black can be Kylo's color. I'm going to go kind of backwards here. Ariel can be green. This might not be super accurate. Cinderella can be blue, and Belle can be yellow. Okay, and let's put like a little parentheses here around. I'm going to have 2 B's if I do it that way. So let's say they have to put in a K for black. Let's say a G for green. Let's say a B for blue. And a Y for yellow. Okay, so hopefully that's enough information to the user that they kind of know what they need to type here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use what's called an if statement to actually check and see what is in this user input that they just put in. So I'm going to say, if the input is holding a K, okay, notice when we're checking we use a double equal sign. A single equal sign sets something equal to 0. If you had a single equal sign, you would write over whatever the user said and put a K in there instead. So you want a double equal sign to check. Also make sure when you're working with chars that you have single quotes around them. So if they put a K for black, that's Kylo's color. So Kylo Ren gets a point. That's how you add 1 to a score there. All right, now I'm going to say otherwise, if input is, I think G was Ariel's color, Ariel gets a point. Okay, else if input equals B, that's Cinderella. Cinter. Okay. Else if input equals yellow, Belle gets a point. There you go. Now, you don't actually have to just give them single points like this. This is how you can code in adding 1 to something. The other way of doing this is, let's say that if they're black, you need to give Kylo Ren a lot of points, because that's a pretty Kylo thing to say, you know. It's possible Ariel also likes blue, but if they say black, they're most likely going to be Kylo Ren. So this is how I add 3 to something, or 4, or 5, or 6. You just change whatever number's there. So you are welcome to add an arbitrary amount of points to each variable based on how important you think the answer is and how important the question is. Okay? If one question is more important than other, maybe you're all along the way you're adding 2's to it. All right? I'm going to pause for a second and add a couple more questions because they're all really going to be the same format. In fact, you could even copy paste this and then just kind of shift what it's actually asking for. So here's question 1. Here's question 2. Remember, laziness is a virtue, so if you can get away with less typing, that's better. One suggestion I have is scramble your order. Don't, like if the first question is going in the order of Kylo, Ariel, Cinderella, and then Snow White, you probably want to have the responses here go in a slightly different order of princesses with your other questions, because otherwise it becomes really predictable. Okay? So let me go ahead and pause it while I type this up. Okay, I'm back. So I've added question 2 and 3 here. I just want to point out a couple things here. So number 1, in this option here, so for birds, I'm pretty sure both Belle and Cinderella likes birds. I didn't ever see Belle playing with mice, so only Cinderella gets that. But I wanted to give 2 people points, Belle a little bit more than Cinderella, if they said that they like birds. Because if I remember correctly from the movie, Cinderella played with birds too. So if you want an if statement, or in this case an else if, else ifs are connected to the if statements above them. They kind of waterfall down. You need to have curly brackets. If statements only execute the statement underneath them unless you have a curly bracket, and then it'll do everything inside the curly brackets. So if somebody says B for birds for the what's your favorite animal question, I put curly brackets so we get them both in there. Okay? Question 3 is back to kind of basics. There's no questions here that are giving 2 princesses scores. But I have what's your favorite food, gray stuff. Remember that from the movie? Try the gray stuff. It's delicious. Roasted pork. Seaweed is, I assume, what Ariel eats. I don't think she eats her fish friends. That would be kind of awful. And then I don't know what they feed Cinderella. I don't think we ever saw her eating. So I just assume she has to like eat the ashes out of the fireplace where she sleeps. That's pretty sad. Yeah, so notice these don't have to change order, but I do recommend changing the order of like who you're asking. So obviously we've got Belle first, and then Kylo, and then Ariel, and then Cinderella last. While before it went the order of Ariel, Cinderella, and Belle, and then Kylo. Okay, great. So we are ready to actually calculate. It's quite possible if you're doing this as an assignment in my class that I require you to have more than 3 questions. You want to check the exact assignment details for that. But 3 is enough to actually start looking at some responses here. So you might have more questions go here. Okay? But I'm going to go ahead and start actually calculating. So I'm going to use another if statement, and I'm going to start checking which one has the biggest score. So I'm going to say if Kylo Ren has a score that's bigger than Ariel, and So that's literally how you say that. This is, oh, sorry, Ariel is not capitalized. So this is the AND operator in computer science, and it's literally, we're saying and. And Kylo Ren has a bigger score than Cinderella. And Kylo Ren has a bigger score than Belle. Okay, we're going to go ahead and say, see out, you, welcome to the dark side. You are Kylo Ren. Okay, and then we're just going to basically repeat this with the other princesses. So let's go ahead and check if Ariel has a bigger score. So if Ariel has a bigger score than Cinderella, and Ariel has a bigger score than Belle, then you know that you're Ariel. Under the sea, you're Ariel. Okay, notice I didn't actually check against Kylo Ren anymore, because if Kylo, like, we can assume Kylo doesn't have a bigger score than Ariel, because otherwise you would have popped out as Kylo. So once you've actually checked a princess, you don't need to check them anymore. You can assume that if we didn't do this, then we are not Kylo Ren. So we don't have to check him anymore. Okay, so I'm also going to add an else here, because we want these guys connected. So if it's not this, then it's this, and then it's not that, it's that. Okay. Else if, so I guess we just need to check, so if it's not Kylo and it's not Cinderella, sorry, if it's not Kylo and it's not Ariel, then it has to be down to Cinderella and Belle. So let's check if you're Cinderella. If Cinderella is bigger than Ariel, okay. Do the dishes, do the laundry. I can't even remember. Does that song exist, or am I just making that up? I don't know. I think that's a real song. Okay. And then else. You are Belle. Oh, okay. I don't have anything clever to say with her. I'm just going to say. Okay. So if it's not this, not this, not this, then Belle is kind of what you call the default option here. Okay? It is possible, depending on how you write your questions and how you write your questions and how you score your questions, it is possible at this endpoint that you have a tie. Okay? If you have a tie, the way we've written this, you're going to be Belle. Okay? Even if you tied between Kylo Ren and Ariel, because if these aren't strictly greater than each other, this is not going to tell you you're Kylo Ren. And it's not going to tell you you're Ariel. Right? Because if these two aren't strictly equal, it's going to tell you that you are not Kylo Ren. Although I do take that back. I think that if Ariel and Kylo are the two biggest scores, down here, this actually should catch you then. So you'd probably turn out to be Ariel, because that's going to be bigger than Cinderella and Belle. But you are going to have Belle come up as a response a little bit more often than some of the others, because she is the default case. If you have a bunch of ties, this is the case you're going to take if none of these other cases are true. Okay? So you might want to take that into account as you write this final calculation part. Okay. So just to review, you're going to have if statements. They're going to be checking whose score is the biggest. So if Kylo is bigger than Ariel, and Kylo is bigger than Cinderella, and Kylo has a bigger score than Belle, you're going to be Kylo. Otherwise, we're going to check Ariel. If she's bigger than Cinderella and Belle, you're Ariel, and so forth and so on. Let's go ahead and run this. welcome to the quiz. What Disney princess are you? So I'm going to be, let's try